Derek Hansford, the man that helped Larry Perkins home to victory last October, and he appears to be headed to another victory, consecutive victories, consecutive meetings here at Mount Panorama, and that would be a great achievement for a guy who'd got so close to winning on previous occasions, and one occasion partnering Alan Moffat. He had a turbo blow when they were very well placed in under-pace car instruction, or when they resumed just after it, and he's missed out in previous years here. But his strategy today appears to have been a very, very good one, and of course he's in with Neil Crompton. Crompton would be delighted, as Mazda team's publicist has pointed out in a somewhat nasty way. Neil Crompton is the only guy in the team that hasn't won here at the mountain, but today may be his day. They're being followed by this car at the moment, and that of course is the lead Porsche. It's Peter Fitzgerald, and Fitzgerald quite obviously hasn't been able to match the pace of the Mazdas. The 3-litre 4-cylinder engine in the Porsche. It's also been driven by Jim Richards and the head of Porsche Cars Australia, Nicholas Leutwiler. Can't quite match the turbocharged performance of the Mazda RX-7s, but nevertheless it's been a great effort by them, and the race is far from over. He's been into the lead before from a far worse position, down 1 minute and 18 seconds, 78 seconds. Here's the specs on the Club Sport version of the Porsche 968. Now there is a more expensive, better equipped version that doesn't have quite as big a wheels, quite as big a brakes, but has more equipment in the car, and the 176 kilowatts at 6,200 revs is common to both. 3 litres and just 4 cylinders, and a very torquey, simple motor. As you can see, a pretty solid motor car, but plenty of power, similar power to the Mazda really, comes out at a very similar power to weight ratio. So braking is generally their forte, although earlier on this week in development for today's race they were having troubles with the brake pedal feel, and this of course is the second Porsche, the third car in the race overall.
The similarity in power actually comes out, reads a little differently on the track. Well, I drove the 7 car for 6 or 7 laps on Friday, and the difference is the punch that you get out of the corner with the turbo on the RX-7. The first punch, as the power really starts to go to the road, you punch out of the corner with better acceleration. They're very similar in top speed, but the thing we're noticing here too is the last 2 timed laps, 36 and 39, about 2.8 seconds the Mazda is getting away, but this comes and goes and rises and falls with traffic. And it's certainly a great duel from here on in.
Car 14 is the car they had a problem with earlier today, with a gearbox selector problem when the car was stuck in first gear, so it was handicapped from really the start of this event, but has clawed its way back up to a very credible 3rd place, Alan.
Yes, well, just, you know, that one error, that's what we said right at the beginning of the show, that that one error can just handicap you all day. Certainly they've come back to 3rd.
The other thing is, what do you think of the pairings in the Porsches, Alan? As we look here at the score overall, and the gap between first and second now changed slightly to the advantage of the Mazda, an extra couple of seconds. You can see there are enormous gaps back to 3rd place and to 4th. And Fangio still hanging on to that. Peter Brock not able to get back there yet. He's in 5th place still, and another MR2 behind him. Dick Johnson's homebrewed car, the Australian Falcon, in 7th place, and the only locally made car in the top dozen. As we look down the field, locally manufactured, in the top 13, the only one there is Dick Johnson's XR6 Falcon. But Suzuki Swift we see there, that's leading Class A in 17th place outright, and that one is 3rd in its class. It was 21st outright, car number 47. But Alan Gross, yes, what do you think of the pairings of the drivers in the Porsches?
Well, I think if Porsche don't win today, they may well look back through their lap times and see that their driver pairings haven't been similar enough in speed. The driver lineup in the Mazdas have been very similar times all day. Certainly they rise and fall with traffic, but the Porsche times have not been as consistent.
We'll come back to that, because it is a critical part of race strategy. Get your pairings right. A Suzuki Swift GTI. This is the Mark Brame Henry Draper car. Such a common combo. 17th outright, but leading Class A, took many, many, many hours to get there. That's the current price of the Suzuki Swift GTI. New model coming on the market later this year of the Swift generally, look at that diminutive engine. 4 cylinders, twin overhead cam, 4 valves per cylinder, 1.3 litres, 74 kilowatts. Pretty modest in the sort of power outputs that are here. Exceeded by the Mazda and the Porsche by 102 kilowatts. But look at the the weight of the car. Diminutive fuel tank, but you don't have to fill it very often in road trim.
Little drum.
Not a great power to weight ratio, but a very I suppose nimble car, and the team in the car know better than most how to prepare it and to drive it.
Yes, you've got Mark Brame, who's only 25 years of age, and we talked about driver pairings before, and of course Henry Draper, who's 45 years of age. So you've got young aggression in Brame and years of experience in driving around the mountain with Henry Draper. So it is quite a strong driver pairing, and the differences in lap times between the two are negligible.
Well, that's the point of it, and it illustrates Alan Grice's point that they lap almost the same. Now, this is interesting. Honda Civic SI has come up into second place in class. It's 3 places back in the outright. In the field overall, it's in 20th place, but it's headed the other Suzuki, and indeed there's the Suzuki behind it that's in 21st place. So that's, I think, the place on the road between the two. The chart changed in front of me there, so I was about to refer to it to see if they're on the same number of laps. If they are, then that's the gap between 20th outright and second in Class A, and 21st outright and third in Class A, between car numbers 54 and 47.
Honda well represented here at the James Hardie 12-hour race in the smaller classes this year, but not in the outright class like we saw last year with the Wayne Gardner Honda NSX Coupe.
Well, the CRX has continued to soldier on, and there we see the gap between first in the class and second. The CRX has continued to soldier on. The old model CRX been joined this year by the Civic Si and also by the Integra VTI-R, and both of them have had quite successful days so far.
Honda's Integra, Alan Grice, has the variable timing system. Can you explain basically what that means?
I'd probably be the wrong one to ask, I would think, but it's certainly it's a method that's used in the engine management that gives the combination of punch and torque out of a corner, but converts it to horsepower by changing the cam timing for the top end power.
So electronically, it actually varies the timing as the car goes through the rev range.
Yes.
And so it means, as Alan says, really you tend to get closer to optimum or mid-range torque, and being able to stack on some extra revs, still get the thing breathing properly at the top end. Good few $1,000s more expensive than the Suzuki, but a much more solid car too. Look at the weight there. The power-to-weight ratio overall is a little bit better, but particularly through the high revs they're available to punch out 96 kilowatts, and carrying also an extra 5 litres of fuel.
Beautiful little motor car, Honda. They've always built good cars and good motorbikes too, as we've known over the years. It's certainly been one of the leading Japanese motoring manufacturers.
One of the first Hondas to race here was probably, and it is the same lap, so that is the gap between second and third in the class, between car 54 that we were looking at, the Civic there in the foreground, and the Suzuki further back, 47 in 21st place. As I was saying, probably one of the first Hondas to race here was Kel Carruthers on his 250cc Honda 4 motorbike that developed maximum power at 14,000 revs and was actually revable to 17,000. Blasting through on them, though, is the lone surviving Mazda, car number 7, that leads the race. And look at the way 176 kilowatts takes you up the hills of Bathurst.
I noticed in the background also, Will, that Brock's got past Fangio.
Aha, so lots of battles going on in this one, an interesting one, as 3.4 seconds only separates second and third place in Class A, 20th and 21st place outright in the motor race. Good stuff. The race really does continue, and 9.5 hours, just over, gone in the James Hardie 12-hour, the fourth race, in which, despite only 24 starters in the first year, Alan Grice, I think you'd agree, and Craig Denyer, that was an outstanding success, and ever since then, it's just grown to greater strength. We'll talk about that later. Let's have a look at Class A and where everybody is at this stage, and you see there the battle between 54 and 47, 20th and 21st outright, followed by fourth place TX3 of Wiles and Clark, the fastest qualifier in the class and in the remainder of the field in a 9-car field in Class A.
Welcome back to Mount Panorama at Bathurst. About 2 hours and 20 minutes left of the James Hardie 12-hour, and a fascinating day it's been in one of the most beautiful parts of New South Wales, this city of Bathurst. Now, our 0055 competition to win the Toyota MR2 is now closed, so save your money. Do not call the 0055 anymore. We'll announce the winner immediately after the race, and won't that be a surprise for somebody? Well and truly on the way to $50,000 worth of beautiful Toyota MR2. As we cross back to our commentators, and I think we're going to have a look at this LPG car.
Yes, but you've just roused me, Tim. I hadn't been really concentrating on the 0055. I'd like to have rung it. I wish I'd brought my mobile along.
Too late.
I should pay attention. But then let's have a look at liquefied petroleum gas, the only car in the race running on it. It's car number 44, as you can see, Fairfax Community Newspapers and Mobil, and they're using Mobil LPG. And it's Melrose and Ian Luff, two pretty outgoing sort of characters. Melrose, the 1993 Australian production car champion. Ian Luff, the outgoing driver training instructor from his driving school out at Oran Park. But let's see how they actually do the refuelling in an LPG car in a motor race like this. Amanda de Pledge has the story.
Last year, this EB Falcon was red, ran on unleaded fuel and was Australia's champion production car. This year, it's taken on a sparkling new look, is chasing a new title and runs on LP gas. About the only thing that hasn't changed is the bloke behind the wheel. Melrose teams up with sports sedan champion Ian Luff for a history-making 12-hour. These motor racing pioneers and their alternative fuel coming under the close scrutiny of the world racing fraternity, having set the fastest time in their class a month back in practice. Environmentally, LP gas is no great saviour, emitting only slightly less carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide than unleaded petrol. The big saving is in dollars and cents. Unleaded cars will run up a fuel bill of around $500 in the James Hardie. Mal and Ian about $140. That's a $360 saving. Anticipating 4 pit stops where 80-litre gas tanks are safely swapped over in almost half the time it would take to refuel with petrol.
LPG is probably safer than fuel because when we're filling up our tanks, it doesn't leak, it doesn't fall over the ground and it can't ignite.
Gas reduces engine grunt by about 5%, compensated by smooth performance in the pits.
We believe it's won and lost in the pits, so the small loss that we've got on the track, which is so minimal, we're going to make up in the pits and hopefully with good driving as well.
They've also installed a revolutionary brake system used by at least half the cars in the James Hardie. It not only eliminates the problem of getting air in the brake line, it cuts changeover time by 1/3.
We've got quick release couplings. We can take the brake calipers off the car. We can change them in a matter of 45 seconds. We can change the wheels. We can have the whole pit stop over and done with. Wheels, tyres, brakes, fuel, and in and out in a minute and a half.
Motor racing technology affects decisions people make every day about the car they drive, the fuel they use. Alternatives are becoming almost as precious as our resources.
And there we are, in now with Melrose. And what a character. He's got the only carburetor kitchen I've ever seen. Lives out Auburn Way. And Mel, I've seen your house, as you know, and it's a motoring enthusiast's pleasure ground, I suppose, and a home handy, or a proud home person's horror.
Yeah, you're right, Will.
Have you tidied it up since I saw it?
What's that again?
Have you tidied the house up since I saw it?
Yeah, actually, I've got a girlfriend now, so she's cleaned it up for me. Isn't that great? How's that for being chover today?
Is your life changing, is it?
Certainly is. No, she's a top girl, actually. Young Jennifer down there in the pits.
Now, let's look at the car. You were 16th early in the race. You dropped to 38th. You're now back to 26th. What's the agenda from here?
Well, what we're doing now, we're going to go right through till this thing runs out of LPG. Then we're going to put Luffy back in and see if he doesn't put it in the sand again, and then see if we can get right to the end and pull up maybe second or third in that class.
Aha, has he been in the sand?
Well, you know, he had a go at me for blowing up the engine. All they did was break a rocket. Then he came into the pits and put it in the sand in pit lane.
It sounds like you haven't fixed the rocker, Mel, if you're running it on the 5 cylinders, are you?
What's that?
It sounds like you haven't fixed it, or have you? Have you fixed the rocker in the engine?
Yeah, we've fixed the rocker now. No, everything's running all right. You know, just a little bit down in power for what I like. You know, that when there's the other XR6s get beside me, they just blow me off.
In practice, Mal, the car was only about 1 second a lap slower than the Dick Johnson car, which of course runs on fuel. That's pretty impressive for a gas-powered car.
Well, yeah, well, certainly, and all the technology that's been put in by Mobil down in Melbourne, LPG, and also APA, who build these tanks for us. And like, how about, you know, how quickly we change them? We didn't make any mess in the pits, and you know, the safety aspects is just phenomenal. I'm just ecstatic, and you know, look how far we've got so far.
How long was it actually taking you to change the tank itself in terms of seconds?
Well, we've got it down to 15 seconds. That's the fastest we've done it, actually, and you know, and the boys know that they're just really good. Now, the tank only weighs 70 kilograms, the whole lot, and it takes them, let's say, 15 seconds. Each bloke weighs about 110, so I'm sure they can pick them up okay.
All right, Melrose, thanks for joining us. Good luck, keep soldiering on. In 26th place in car number 44, running there on liquefied petroleum gas, a resource of which Australia has almost more than it needs. So very pleased to have people use it like that. And there's the crew watching now. There's Ian Luff, the transgressor, been out in the sand pit earlier on in the race. Actually, I must say, for a driver training instructor, Alan Gross, he has some spectacular on-track excursions.
He has had some, yes. And I was just wondering, looking at those blokes in the pits, actually, are they mechanics or gas attendants?
So there they are anyway, and revelling in an experiment that's very interesting, because Cams is very interested in how all this works and the safety of it. And Danny Bogut is in the Mazda 626, the one that remains after Ken Douglas's car expired. Cameron McConville sharing this car with him.
Currently 15th outright and leading its class. Good performance too up against the Nissan Pulsar.
Yes, Class B this is, and the biggest class in the race.
Beautifully balanced little motor car, the Mazda. And certainly we can, I guess, expect to see more of these surface over the next 12 months with the new Pro Car series, which we're seeing for the first time. So this is not the only time you'll see this sort of motor race. There's actually a 6-round Pro Car series.
Henning Murray Carter in car number 18, which is lying second in that class. The Nissan Pulsar Triple S. And you can see in front there the Action Suzuki car of Mark Brame, Henry Draper, car number 43. Interesting to compare that 1290cc car with the 2-litre one of Murray Carter, who doesn't necessarily go so quickly through the corners, but my goodness, he's got some straight line stick. And once again, as we see now, the situation overall in Class B, you see that the Suzuki is very keen to tuck in behind and try and get an aerodynamic tow up the hill. But this is a situation with Mazda 626 heading a brace of Nissan Pulsars. The Volvo 850 GLT 5th in its class, a long way back, and then some more Nissan Pulsars, Mazda 626, that revived Nissan Pintara even, still surviving.
How about now? Class-winning performance in Class C for large cars between 2600 cc's and 4 litres. There's just one car. This is it, being driven very sensibly. The Sydney Allen Printers entry with William Cedars, Jeff Edwards and Paul Flotman in the Falcon EBS. Just driving round and round. All they have to do is get home and they've won their class.
Well, they're used to driving much bigger equipment. Paul Flotman and Bill Cedars are truck racers of some repute. I've been used to seeing Bill Cedars in a big yellow man truck thrashing it around Oran Park and various other parts of the country. But there were 2 cars entered in Class C, one withdrew, and here we are. This is the race leader, and unfortunately for the Mazda team, the sole survivor, spoiling a perfect record for both Mazda and also for Gary Walden. But down in the pits is John Smale.
And I tell you what, Will, there are a few worried faces down here as well, because Greg Hansford in the lead car is moving away from the Porsche by sometimes half a second, sometimes a second, but probably not enough to be able to cover the extra pit stop and maybe extra pit stop and a half he's going to have to do. Alan Horsley, how close is the finish going to be?
Well, it's a bit hard to call at the moment, John, but we could see a dead heat the way we're going.
What are you going to do? Are you telling Greg at the moment to go faster to try and open that gap?
No, he's just concentrating on a 36, mid-36, and he'll try and keep that up.
Your plan at the moment is definitely 2 more stops, but maybe an extra security stop as well, yes?
Yeah, we're not too sure about that at the moment. It all depends on the speeds they keep up, but hopefully we'll get through on 2 more, Porsche on 1 more.
If Porsche does only 1 more, Just how close could you be at the end?
Very, very close.
How worried are you at the moment, Alan?
I'm a bit worried.
Thank you, mate.
Thanks, Joe.
And Alan Horsley, of course, the team manager for the Mazda VP team. It's one of these wonderful things you have to decide, Will Hagen, isn't it? You know, do you go a little faster? Do you try and save half a second a lap? What do you do?
Indeed, and here's the car that's chasing, the one that does have a chance of making it a Porsche rather than a Mazda victory. The second car, number 14, is very much out of the hunt, some laps behind. But look at that, 94, nearly 95 seconds in arrears. It's about half a lap around here, but an extra pit stop to be done. And here's car 2. And that, of course, is Neil and Rick Bates, the twins from Canberra. Neil is their rally expert, Rick is their race expert, and Juan Manuel Fangio, the second, is their very much race expert as they go past the Suzuki Swift. And then the Porsche goes past the MR2. So busy times here still, with a lot of cars surviving in this James Hardie 12-hour. That's been the tradition of the race. I think the average has been 75%. That's how long it's been running, GIO time. So coming up towards 2 hours remaining, or to look at it another way, only just a little under 2 1/4. So, as I say, plenty still to be done, plenty still can go wrong. And then coming to the Mercantile Mutual dealer team, Toyota MR2. And that's one of the Nissan Pulsars.
It's a little MR2 that's been going so well. It's well, the one we were looking at. I think we've got the wrong car there, the one we were talking about, with the Bagwana cousins running, and they've been going so well with John Smith at the wheel with them.
This is it.
There we are.
They out-qualified the Juan Fangio car by about half a second. Weren't as quick in the warm-up yesterday, but I think the Bates twins went out and did their warm-up uncharacteristically with a fairly light fuel load, but that's the split now. They thought at one stage this Toyota factory-owned car being run quite separately by John Smith, who in conjunction with Mercantile Mutual wanted to give some young guys a chance, so he was doing the first and last stint, but he's done a few others as well. He thought they might have been leading the Fangio car and might have had some factory pressure for it to win, but it hasn't come about. Of its own accord, it's got into the lead in the class ahead of this one, but it's been a very good fight served up to it.
Indeed. Scott Bagwana, Jason Bagwana and John Smith. Talking about the car, Will, you're one of the select group of motoring journalists here at Bathurst for Toyota, where they had as a test a hill climb in the reverse direction around the course.
Well, that's what they were showing actually in that 0055 thing, the green light and then heading up towards Forest Elbow, indeed. And it was in this car. There were 2 cars used, and this was one of them. So it's had no special treatment at all. They had a roll cage in it that day. It was thrashed by motoring journalists for a number of standing starts for the hill climb from just below Forest Elbow up towards the top of the mountain, just past the Castrol Tower there, and then handed over to John Smith and said, all right, paint it up and go racing.
What was it like to drive?
A very well balanced car. I'm a big bloke, and quite truthfully, I'd prefer a little bit more room in the car. I have enough room, but I'd just like to flap the wings in a sense occasionally. But I love the balance of the car. I've always enjoyed the MR2s. The early cars, I didn't think told you as much, and they were a totally different body shape. Didn't tell you, give you good feedback on what was happening between you and the road. But this one does. And this latest version is a real improvement in the sense that it gives you a budget-priced performance car at the bottom end of the MR2 market, that sort of $45,000, $46,000 end. And if you want lots of luxury and the best sound system I've ever seen in my life, then that's available in the fully equipped car at the top end of the range.
And what a great driver for Toyota John Smith has been. He's been with them for years. He drives so well and he prepares the cars so well, doesn't he?
Well, he sells a few of their cars as well.
Yeah, that helps, I suppose.
The family business is, of course, a Toyota dealership at Hurstville in Sydney. But, yes, he does a great job, and they're very pleased with him. And there you see an interesting bunch of the WRX, the Honda Integra VTIR, and then the race-leading
down underneath there.
Mazda, yes.
I don't think it's an anti-sickness strap. I think something coming off. The Integra is a delightful little car with the VTEC engine, which has, you know, as you were saying earlier, there's sort of, in effect, adjustable camshaft so that you get different cam actions according to the sort of performance you want. But it makes it such a lively car. It really is a delightful machine.
Yes,
it's whatever it is, it's fraying. So it may be plastic or rubber of some sort. There, it's gone. It's gone.
I think it's just a bit of loose trim of some sort. It might have been an exhaust pipe strap or something like that.
It may have been someone else's, Will, collected on the way around.
Yeah, well, it could be that too. But the Integra has been interesting, and it's nice to see. I mean, I think this is the significance of this race, that Honda hasn't done this specifically, but their new car that competes directly in the market against Celica, both of those are here in their latest form and competing, and that's good for buyers. Yes. Buyers can see how reliable they are, how they perform, and what the drivers say about them and so on. Admittedly, drivers don't always want to be too critical of the products they're driving, considering that they're driving them for the people that make or sell them. But nevertheless, it's a nice comparison, and it's another aspect of your buying decision and the sort of information you need.
They've done a good job.
Wise purchase.
And they're such pretty cars. Look at the MR2 and the Integra. They really are good shapes, aren't they?
They've done a good job in setting this car up too. It's sitting very flat on the road.
Well, that was the impression when I drove the Integra, and it was a good few months ago now, but on some country roads, gee, it was a nicely tied down car, Alan. It really felt well. There's several versions of it.
Steve Hardman and John Target are driving the car we're following now, car 40, the Hyundai Elantra, the GLS Levant. It's down the field, but again, it's a demonstration of car makers' talent. The Hyundai, of course, coming from Korea, one of the up-and-coming world car makers. I can say with great authority that in Fiji, Hyundai is now the #3 bestseller. They really love the strength of the car and the price of it and the fact that it lasts a long time.
Basically Mitsubishi-based vehicle originally, 27,000 list price. It was a bit under 26 when it came on the market. At that stage, it was the cheapest car with an airbag available in Australia, the Levant. And that, of course, is becoming more widely available, but a pretty healthy power output there, 93 kilowatts, good tank size as well, and a quite respectable power-to-weight ratio. Good, torquey 1.8-litre engine. And I always feel that the Elantra has had good styling, and sometimes perhaps a little bit more acceptable styling than its parent car, the Mitsubishi Lancer. But the Lancer's been restyled in recent times, and that's an attractive-looking range as well.
I found the Lancer also one of those strange little motor cars in that you look at the outside shape and then you look at the inside, and it's quite a lot larger than you thought.
All right, well, that's the situation. That's the cars in Class B. But let's have a look at the cars in Class A, where Mark Brame, Henry Draper have that one-lap lead over the battle between car 54 and 47, and then the fastest qualifier in the class is in 4th place. Finally, after about 7 hours, been pegged back by Brame and Draper, and the remainder behind.
Welcome back to Mount Panorama at Bathurst, the James Hardie 12-hour. There's the car number 05, that famous number, and that's the Volvo. In the car at the moment is Peter Brock, and any minute now we'll get him on the blower and have a yarn to him. But first, being the top of the hour, let's go back and have a look at what we've done in the last 60 minutes. Okay, while we try and get Peter on his cellular phone, let's talk to his co-driver, Tony Scott. G'day.
How are you?
You must be very proud, eh?
I'll be truthful, we're a little bit surprised by the result. You know, it's a very good package, but to be running in the top 5 after 10 hours is, you know, and obviously the first sedan, I suppose, or non-sports car. It's a fantastic effort.
Sensational performance. Well, one of the things we keep saying is for the punters at home, we're showing them the cars that they may want to buy. If you've got the 70 grand to spend, give us a plug. Why would you buy this car?
Well, first off, I suppose the people from Volvo have got their order forms down there. They have several sales representatives here this weekend. You know, it really is a beautiful car. I've been driving one on the road.
Okay.
And I've sort of driven it. My wife's also driven it, and it's just you know, like a very well balanced brakes, power, fuel economy, all those sort of items. It just makes it a very nice package. Wood grain dash.
I'm not being rude by any means, but it's not the sort of motor car you'd expect to be a race car, but it's doing superbly.
Well, that's, you know, Volvo have obviously approached the marketplace, I suppose, with a slightly different attitude, and what they're looking at is presenting a product which is not just safety, but it also has performance. And,
okay.
And that's what's happening here.
Tony, just let me cut in because our lead car is in the pits. Not quite sure. I'll get a word from somebody whether this is scheduled or not. John Smales, what was that about?
Tim, that was sensational. That was the second last scheduled pit stop for the Mazda team. It happened in 23.64 seconds. Greg Hansford stayed in the car. He's now charged back out into the race. We just wait to see the Porsche come through. We expected the Porsche would pass the Mazda when it made its pit stop. It looks like the Mazda's got in and out and maintained its lead in the motor race. The Porsche is due to have its last stop in about 10 minutes. Then it'll be a race to the finish between the two of them, with the Mazda having one more pit stop only to complete.
Thanks, John. Well, Tony Scott, that's a dogfight up front.
Yeah, definitely.
But you can ignore them.
Yeah, we're obviously looking at a class win, and as I said before, the first sedan sort of style of car. We're, I think, about 3 laps ahead of the next rival, so you know, from our point of view, we're looking quite good.
You were saying to me earlier, I think you're only kidding though, that Brocky went out there, started to go a bit quick, and you said you might shoot him because you don't want to nurse it round to the end, though, surely.
No, you know what happens is you get yourself into a rhythm, and the idea is that you just smooth on the car, smooth on the gear changes, the fuel economy, tyre, all those sort of items, and it's actually easier to do a reasonably quick time as opposed to a slower time, because you end up sort of losing that rhythm.
Yeah, well, as we watch it go around there too, it's a beautiful looking car, isn't it? I mean, it really sits beautifully on the road as well. I mean, your Volvo buyers out there, I think, will be very impressed.
Yeah, the Triple M paint scheme, I must admit, really helps it from a motor racing point of view.
Okay, Tony, can you just stay with us a second while we see if we can get Peter Brock on the phone, and we'll go back to our commentators across the road.
So, clambering up the mountain goes car 05 for the 208th time. It's completed 207, and of course, in a little while we get the electronically recorded gap between first and second place, but this has been a sensational performance. As Tony Scott rightly points out, this is the first of the sort of 4-door sedans with capacity to take 5 people, but this is the car that's just roared out of the pits, and of course it was after a pit stop like that just a little while ago where everything went wrong for car number 1, and particularly for Gary Walden, the guy that's gone so well here over 3 years, winning the last 2 and being in first place this year when he went by the wayside. The gap was 1 minute 40 seconds when they came into the pits, and Peter Fitzgerald flashed by. As they come by now, the gap electronically timed will come up in just a moment.
When the Porsche comes past.
And when the Porsche comes past. Thank you, Mr. Alan Gross. I was wondering what was going wrong. So we've got to wait for the Porsche to come by, but that registers the on-track time for the Mazda, and in probably around a minute.
I think
I'd say about 60 seconds.
That last stop was an excellent stop. Not only was it a quick stop in the pit, but the pit entry and pit exit was very, very quick indeed. I was very surprised that it came out so much in front of the Porsche.
Looking at this, let's have a look at the leaderboard. And this is the situation in a race that has just under 2 hours remaining. And you know the situation, 1 stop each remaining for the cars in first and second place. Up to the cutting goes the race leader in behind the Suzuki Swift again, and Mark Brame or Henry Draper keeps it out of the way. There is second place, and this is where we'll get the gap. Was 100 seconds, and going out wide,
using all the road and little some.
They are certainly trying hard, trying not to damage the car, but certainly pressing on, because it's become a race for seconds, as Alan Horsley was saying. It could end up in a dead heat. So much depends on the skill of the crew when they make their pit stops. 1 more for the Porsche, 1 more for the Mazda. So the race has reached an absolutely fascinating stage. They've got to go hard, but they don't dare knock the cars around.
No, it's a real art in bringing them home quickly in this situation. The gap's now just over 1 minute, 1 minute and 8 seconds. So that's it's excellent stop, really.
Gary Walden up with us, and thanks for joining us. Sorry that you could, in a sense, because I think you'd done everything to earn and deserve another victory, Gary. Apart from that disappointment, which is obviously very high, how do you see the situation now and the people who are in the 2 lead cars?
I think at the moment, Will, I think we've got a very good chance. Greg's in the car at the moment. I believe Neil will be getting in the car in about an hour's time. But I really think the car can push on and win from here.
What about Jim Richards compared with Peter Fitzgerald?
Yes, I think Jim's probably a little bit quicker than Peter. When I was out this morning, I had a lot more trouble pulling away from Jim than I did Peter. But you know, Fitzy's a good driver, obviously. But Jim, you know, he drives every week of the year, and he's just very, very good.
So you saw the gap there, and that was electronically timed as the Mazda comes by now to complete 220 laps, waiting for Peter Fitzgerald to come around and complete his 220th on this big circuit, 6.2 kilometres around, and where a lap time, the last time done by Greg Hansford, was 2 minutes 35.97. In other words, a 68-second gap is less than half a lap. So, and 1 stop remaining for each of the cars.
We have, 9 hours and 1 hour and 55 minutes to go. 10 hours and 5 have expired. A great effort here. The car seems sound, Gary, does it, Gary Walden? No problems with the...
Yes, I think so, Evan. The car, I was speaking to Neil when he stepped out of the car about, an hour and a half ago, and he said the car's running very well, the temperatures are okay, the brakes feel good. You know, they've obviously got to drive the car very hard. We're using 7,500 revs, where last year we probably used 7,000. So the cars are being worked extremely hard.
How different was the driving technique between the 2 cars? Did you and Mark Skate push car 1 harder than they've been pushing 7?
No, I think we've both actually, gone out to go flat out all day. Actually, our car was detuned slightly to the 7 car. We've decided last night that we'd drop ours back a few horsepower to try and get reliability, and it's gone the wrong way.
How do you feel, Gary? It must be an enormous disappointment.
I feel very, very disappointed, Will. 12:30, 1 o'clock, and we had a fair few hiccups this morning, but at 12:30, 1 o'clock, I was fairly confident we'd win the motor race.
Yeah. The hiccups you're talking of this morning, were they to do with the pace car mainly, or did you have car troubles?
Yeah, the pace car. No car troubles at all. We had a flat tyre.
Yes.
The pace car came out the wrong time. Mark actually came into the pits when it was supposed to be Greg's car.
Yeah.
We lost another 30 or 40 seconds there.
You'd survived all of that and still were leading. It's pretty tough, isn't it?
Oh, it's unbelievable. You come up here and you have luck running with you some years, and other years it just doesn't run at all.
0 to 0.
Well, as I said to Mark, that's the way it goes, I suppose. He was very disappointed. But
how do you feel, Gary Walden, when you work so hard to build up a lead and then someone has a crash and out comes the pace car and you're back where you started from? You got your opposition right on your tail again.
It's so frustrating, Evan. You go out there and you work your hardest, you drive the car flat out, and you get a fair lead, and all of a sudden you look in the mirror and they're behind you again.
Yeah. By the same token, it does pan out. Next time out there, maybe you're not doing that many races, I guess, a little like me, but certainly 12 months' time, you might be out there looking desperately for a minute, saying, where can I get a minute from? Where can I get 60 seconds? Where indeed can I get 1 second?
Well, that's right, Alan.
Pace comes out.
That does, yes.
You've got to take it.
We'll be back to Mount Panorama very shortly, but looking at Class B car, 35 of Phil Alexander, Warren Rush and Jeff Forshaw, as we look at the whole class, in fact, see that it's in 4th place there. Behind that Mazda 626 that's doing the job, the Volvo 850 has clambered back to 6th place in class. The class with the most cars in it of any in the race.
Turbo whistle? That's it. Well, we just heard the 05 car whistle past us here with Peter Brock aboard. That's the Volvo 850 Turbo. And I think we've got Brocky on the phone in the car. Peter, can you hear us?
Yeah, sure can.
Listen, I've got a message from Tony Scott. He's too polite to tell you, but he says, slow down, will you? Tony, have a yarn to him.
Yeah, Peter, it's obviously still going very well.
Yeah, very nicely, Tone. I'm just brushing the brakes and, well, look, as I come into the chase, you told me I'm changing here about 5-7 up to 4th. I'll get down the bottom of this dip, I suppose, and past this off at about 5.7 into 5th. Now, as I'm going in there, I'm lifting off at around about a fair bit before I get to before I edge left, and then I'm poking it back to 4th gear. I'll show you there. I'm lifting off now. I'm poking back to 4th about there. It's about 6. Squeeze it down, double back to 3rd. About 6 again. Lift off here and just let it float in.
You happy with that, Tom?
Yeah, I think he's he's been around here enough probably to know what he's doing. That's exactly how to do it. Obviously, you save the brakes and use the tyres.
Yeah. And here there's not much you can do about this pit corner, is there? I mean, it's just a sharp, tight corner. You've got to float it in there somehow and try not to get too much wheel spin coming out. But you can see the inside front wheel picks up a little there.
Will, a new lot over in the box. Have you got anything to add with the King here?
Well, Alan Gross keeps listening and snarling his nose up. What do you think about all that, Alan?
Well, he's a bit of an extrovert, Brocky, isn't he? I mean, listen to the way he's got the car set up so that it whistles at everybody. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the turbo, but he said to Shepard, no, take it out and make it whistle. I want everybody to hear it.
It's like a cup of tea, isn't it?
Yeah. How do you pull up from 240 kilometres now to 120, Peter, by brushing the brakes?
It really is a problem, but because you've got to use a bit of transmission, a bit of sideways motoring.
No, you know what they say, Peter, brushing the brakes is a sign of an artist. Peter, what was the last time you raced a front-wheel drive turbocharged car?
Oh, absolutely never.
So this is a new experience for you.
This is absolutely a new one. I mean, as you come through this corner, for instance, I'm a bit balked by this guy, but I'm using 3rd gear here, and it's buzzing up the inside wheel there. I mean, it's just incredible the amount of torque you get.
Yeah, but you're sitting over in the right-hand side, and you're probably sitting on your wallet as well, so that sort of tend to lift that inside wheel a bit, wouldn't it?
It does tend to look a little bit grossy. You know all about that coming from the Gold Coast, of course.
Yeah. And if you were in one of your normal cars and were running on 5 cylinders, you'd be in the pits.
Yes, it's a sweet motor. I mean, they are 5 cylinders, as you point out, Evan, and you cannot pick it from a 6. I mean, it sings away like a little BMW, really.
Whistles away. I was nearly giving you a hard time today because it looked like at one stage I was going to be driving that Subaru WRX. I bet you missed me out there.
I do, Gracie. Gee, thank goodness, mate.
Oh, I could have been down the inside there, Brocky. I could have been down the inside.
I could have opened the door on you.
Now, Peter, did you run out of dark paint, or is that the intended colour scheme?
Well, they tell me it's the intended colour scheme. There's another bloke out here, a little Hyundai, who's in the same colour scheme. And I thought he was our second car, actually, and he wouldn't move over for me. I was going crooked. I said, hey, hang on, you're my teammate.
They only drove 2/3 of the way to the paint booth.
Give me a break.
This, Peter... We must go, Peter Brock. We've got the race second place car in the pits now.
Okay, this is the stop that everyone's been waiting for. This is the Porsche stop as Jim Richards gets out and Peter Fitzgerald gets in, and they are doing a front brake pad change. Since the Mazda had its stop, it's been opening a gap of 2 seconds a lap on this car, to the point that this car is now 1 minute and 21 seconds behind the Mazda. Now, with a driver of Richards' caliber on board, you wouldn't be losing 2 seconds a lap unless you had a brake problem. That's why they're doing the front brake pad change right now. Peter Fitzgerald is in the car. He'll stay in until the finish. They are confident they will not want another pit stop. No more fuel to go into the motor car. Currently 41 seconds down. This is all time they're losing on the road. Fingers working really hard at the front end of the car. Right-hand wheel goes on. Left-hand wheel still to go. Come on, Fitzy. This is the motor race. We're 1 3/4 hours from the end of the race. Fitzgerald is going to have to give everything he's got to this to pull back the Mazda on the road. Tracks down. Jared Murphy says go. He's gone in 1 minute and 6 seconds, and now we'll see the race to the finish, realizing that there's still one more pit stop and maybe one pit stop plus a splash for the Mazda RX-7.
Thank you, Smilesy. That was great. Fantastic live action from the pits. There's the Porsche back out again. Brocky, you're still with us? Peter, you still there? Hello, Peter Brock. You might have lost Peter in the car. Can you hear us, Brocky, or not? I think their team's talking to him on the radio, so we might just stick with him for a second.
Okay, you can if you like.
Yes, he is. He's
you guys.
having a chat to his... He sounds very relaxed, Tony. Having a chat with the team in the car there.
Feels like a few bucks.
And looking good.
Can't tell, but it could be, no, it might be the linkage. It might be the linkage. But I can't get it in. I think I'm doing a pretty good job.
Tony Scott's looking a bit concerned here.
No, I think they're actually discussing the car number 6. Peter was following the GLT,
All right.
the non-turbo car, and I think they were discussing a little bit of smoke which is appearing from the back of that car.
All right, Peter, you still there? No, he's...
No. Peter, we've got, we believe definitely one more pit stop, and then the last one will just be a couple of litres and we'll be on our way. So...
In fact, Tony, we understand from our truck position that Peter's on his way into the pits for this one, and I guess the next one you'll go back into the car till the end of the race.
Yep, that's exactly the plan. The car's been very easy to drive, so consequently we've both done about 3-hour stints, and it's worked out very well for us.
Yeah, so the 1994 James Hardie's been a good one.
And Volvo.
Yeah, and for Volvo.
And
indeed.
for Volvo.
Volvo, indeed. It's a fabulous position you've managed to get yourself in this race. It really is a credit to you and to the car.
The enthusiasm which has been shown by the management of Volvo is just absolutely outstanding. They have people representatives here from the factory Motorsport division from Sweden,
sure.
And they've actually elected to come to this race ahead once Peter's coming in with us now.
Yeah, here he comes in now, so you might get some idea if we keep the pictures here for you.
Yep.
As to what all of this is about. John Smales will do it, and you can sit here and have a listen to what's happened. But Rocky's getting in there pretty quickly.
Okay, well, hopefully we're just looking for petrol and nothing else.
All right.
Or petrol and tyres, but definitely not brakes.
As Peter Brock pulls into the pits, let's go down to John Smales and see what it's all about.
Okay, Brock's hit the pits now. Bonnet's open, wheels coming off. Brock stays in the car, naturally. Window being washed. Again, new brakes going on the front of the motor car. So this car has had the Achilles heels of brakes. So many brakes going on it. Well, I heard Brock saying to you earlier, Tim, that he was going really easy on the brakes. Well, let me tell you, I think Tony Scott, out of the two drivers, has probably been doing the better job on the brakes, because Brock is tuned to Group A racing, and no matter how easy he thinks he's going on the brakes, he's really punishing them. In fact, privately, the team has told me that they're getting very low on brake pads in the pits at the moment, and it was worrying them a little bit. They really had to tell Brock to ease off on the brakes even more to give himself the chance of getting this car to the finish. Brock's sitting very relaxed in the car, but it's a long stop. 57 seconds, coming up to a minute at the moment. Brock, of course, sitting comfortably now in fourth position, but how comfortable, I'm not quite sure. Will Hagen, maybe you can tell us with the car 2, the MR2 threatening. 1 minute and 12 seconds down. Brock taking more water. Certainly the car, an absolute surprise package here today. No one expected the Volvo to be up this high in the motor race at this late stage. Not much sign of damage on it, although the front balance is a little bit loose. George Shepherd, the team manager, says stand by. Still work around the front right-hand side of the motor car. Still wheel nuts being tightened. 1 minute 40. This is a slow stop. But just wait for a bit of Brock magic when he gets back into the pits. He's down. And away in 1 minute 51.
So that'll have Fangio close to it, because his deficit was just over 2 minutes.
Fangio just gone through, in fact, so they'll come out with Brock just behind the MR2, the yellow MR2 of Fangio's gone up there, so Peter Brock now has a job of reeling him in again. There we are. You can see they're almost following each other, just with the Porsche in between.
But let's go down to Amanda DePledge in the pits, talking to Rod Wilson.
Rod, things were looking good for you in the Integra. You were running in fourth position in S-Class, but you had to relinquish that fourth position due to problems that have been developing over about the last week.
Yeah, well, we've had some noises in the gearbox appearing, little phantom noises that we weren't too concerned about. Unfortunately, those phantom noises turned into a total failure. We lost third and fourth gear about 10 minutes ago.
You noticed that problem developing, especially during the race today.
Yeah, it was getting difficult to change gears from third to fourth, and you sort of have it in the back of your mind that something mechanically is obviously causing it. All you do is hope that it will last for the total 12 hours. So we were nursing the gearbox, lap times were coming down. We just wanted to stay on the track for 12 hours, but have only made 11, unfortunately.
Thanks, Rod.
What a lovely bloke, and this is another pair of lovely guys, Neil Crompton and Greg Hansford. And their lead at the moment is only 16 seconds over Peter Fitzgerald. 1 lap and 16 seconds, sorry. And that's very comfortable over the second-placed Porsche. I think, frankly, the Mazdas have it. But in the sports car class, things are tight and tough as well, with Juan Manuel Fangio and the Bates twins there asserting themselves over that car you saw Wilson talking about that's now out of the sports car class.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Bathurst and the closing hours of the James Hardie 12-hour race here. We're following the little cars in Class A, the Suzuki Swift of the perpetual winner here. In effect, Mark Brame, who's won it 3 times in a row and is well on course to doing it 4 times with 1 hour and 35 minutes to go. Craig Denyer, he's really driven it superbly well.
I think these guys have got to be congratulated. Evan, team manager Barry Devlin has done a great job to set this car up the way it has. To win 4 of this type of class on the trot is a great achievement. And also, when you consider the fact that they're up against much bigger cars this year for the first time, Colin, 2.5 litres, and this is the smallest car in the class in terms of weight, and also engine size, 1300cc. So it really is a top little performance.
It is, actually, because in the past they've been only running against cars, say, 1600cc's. Now, this time, as we said, there's 2-litre cars and so on in this particular class. They've had to fight harder for it this year. They've actually done that, and the other cars have actually gone by the wayside as well. But they've done a great job. They've actually been driving the car hard, as we said before, all day. Both drivers are doing identical times. The pit work's been magnificent, and they deserve the win.
Look, cheeky fellow passing the Falcon. Mind you, it's the Falcon in the class where there's no other contestant, but even so, it's a very cheeky thing. Car second in the class and currently running 20th is the beautiful-looking Honda Civic. Car number 54. That's the entry of Mark Ferrier with Neil Robson and Philip Parsons sharing the driving. 1 lap behind the Swift that's leading the class, but well placed and a good effort from. They're going very reliably, having a good run.
Yeah, Toyota Corollas this year, Colin, aren't as competitive as what we've seen them in previous years here.
No, I think it's the pace this year is obviously on the increase, and once you start making the cars go faster, I think problems come into it that you may not have had last year, and I think that's been the case with some of the cars. Everyone this year, I think, the pace has been a cracker. It's going to be the most laps ever competed in the race. Obviously, as the people are learning more about their motor cars, they're trying to get them to go faster, their pit work's better, and that's what the race is all about.
What sort of difficulties do these drivers face racing around here? I mean, they've got their own battle amongst themselves, but of course they've got to keep one eye on the rear vision mirror for those bigger cars coming through. It must be a fairly tough time for these fellows.
It is, but I guess now, in this time of day, they're probably getting fairly used to it. But now we've got the car that's coming second into the pits. We'll see if we follow him through, what his pit work's like. We haven't seen a lot of him during the day, but no doubt they're all there, geared up, ready to go.
Not a lot of sponsorship by the look of the car. It's very pretty, but I can see one sign on it apart from the Honda one. Let's see what they do. Change the driver.
Fairly relaxed atmosphere down there. No one's in a real hurry.
They're not changing any tyres, that's for sure. The car's not jacked up in the air. The driver's getting in, and the...
What a lovely leisurely stop this is. I'm not derogatory. I mean, there's just nothing much to do. The chef to keep the team manager at the front had a bit of a peer at the tyres and seemed to think it's okay. They finished refueling at the back.
These cars actually only ever put front tyres on them if they ever need them. The back tyres would actually go around all day because being front-wheel drive, the back tyres really don't wear at all.
I think they've forgotten about the race, but...
Here we go. Door shut now at car 54. Where are you? Well, we're back out on the track one more time.
I guess that's why the Suzuki's winning.
And this is car 45, which led this class earlier today and also set fastest time of this class. It's actually climbed its way back through the class quite well. It's the Wiles Clark Ford Laser TX3. It's a non-turbocharged car, front-wheel drive again, and obviously they've had some problems throughout the day because the car was very fast in practice. And we'll now cross down to the pits and to Mark Warren.
Phil Parsons, you happy with the way the Honda's going?
Yeah, very happy. We've been having brake problems most of the weekend, and they're still persisting now, but we're getting used to the problem, and it's not that bad. It's after a while you get used to it, and you don't sort of forget about it for a while.
getting to the panic-stricken part of the race. How do you think you're going to finish here today?
I don't know. Well, I think we just lost second place in our class, so we'll just have to see what happens from here on in.
Thanks very much.
All right. Well, you probably always wondered what Phil Parsons looked like. Now you know. Gosh, he'd be wonderful at robbing banks.
Oh dear. Maybe if their pit work was that little bit better all day, they may be still in second place because they have lost a little bit of time.
There was something good about it. I really liked the way they did it. I thought they were going to hand out sandwiches, you know.
I think what actually happens when you get down to this level of the sport, all their friends come along to give them a hand. They're not a professional outfit. They probably haven't practiced too many pit stops, and they said, well, we're only going to put some tyres on it occasionally. We may not put any brakes in it. We've got to put some fuel in it, though, because it's going to run out of that. And that was the way they looked at it.
I think it was wonderful to see. It's just that. It's friends helping and a wonderful effort. They're up there second place in the class, and that is superb.
This is a Wollongong effort. Glenn Clark, no stranger to the mountain, came over from New Zealand to drive for Peter McLeod some time ago and has raced in Formula Ford in New Zealand, has done the Sandown 6-hour production car race here, has done the James Hardie 12-hour in 1992 and 1993. Chris Wiles from Wollongong, company director, and he's been very successful in go-karts, was the 1990 Australian go-kart champion, and he's also been here twice in 92 and 93.
One thing about this particular race is that we do have a lot of new drivers, or when I say new drivers we don't normally see, you know, in these type of motor cars. They come out of Formula Vs, come out of some of the other categories that we don't quite know. And it's great for them to come to Bathurst, get some experience here, because obviously the two races, this particular one and October, when you get to October, it's nice to come with a bit of experience, and this is the only way they could actually gain experience in these type of motor cars.
Well, something must have happened because they were the fastest car by almost 4 seconds in practice, and now back. Let's have a look at the rundown for cars in Class A and just see where they're coming. The leader, of course, was the... they're up to second. They've got up to second.
Well, the car 54 pit stop has put the Ford back in front of them.
Yeah, so they are catching up. They're still a lap behind, and I think it's probably too much to catch up. But it's the Suzuki leading from the Ford with the Toyotas at the tail of the field.
Got a spare $220,000, you can buy one of these. It's a Maserati Shamal, but you'll have to pay extra for the radio. Air conditioning is standard, radio is an option. Colin Bond, can you believe that in a $220,000 motor car?
Well, I don't know. The Italian cars like this, they're quite unique, of course, and I think the people that buy them like to keep them specialised.
Oh,
but
Colin,
it has been...
Colin, have you ever heard Italian radio?
Yeah, that's a point. A beautiful car driven by Bill Gillespie at the moment, and a car that is the most powerful car in the field with 240 kilowatts and has the best power to weight ratio as well, 1,470 kilos. It's an 8-cylinder car, twin turbocharged car, and running in Class X, as we mentioned, for $220,000. And a car that's performed reasonably well today. They had a spin at the top of the mountain this morning, followed by a wheel bearing failure. But a car that's relatively short on development time, and I would think Colin Bond probably a world racing debut for this model.
I wouldn't know about that one, of course, but I think that yes, the car, they only got it very short before the race. They haven't done a lot of testing time with the car, and I guess that's where it's lacking out. Theoretically, it should be the fastest in the straights, but it's not being the fastest around the circuit in its class, of course.
No, they were doing very well early on, then had that wheel bearing problem, which I think contributed to the spin. Dropped way back in the field, and they thought they were up to 10th place. Let's look at the, as we talk now, let's just run through the leaders there. Still the Mazda in front from the Porsche, and let's follow this beautiful Maserati. They've really made up a lot of ground to get back up to 10th place. Oh, car 44, as they change another tank load of fuel, the most intriguing way of changing fuel. In goes the LPG, in goes the driver. You can actually change the tank quicker than you can change drivers.
10 to 15 seconds they change it a full tank of gas, and of course the rules state here that LPG is too dangerous to refuel on the pit apron, so they actually have to take the tanks away, refuel them, bring them back.
Invisible, odorless, highly explosive. You've got to be terribly careful with stuff, and they're just that. They've got the safest equipment, special safety braking.
But what a great marketing effort, Evan, for Mobil Gas.
Very clever. Very clever. A nice clean fuel, and they've made a real point of it. We've been following it because it's such an interesting car. Just as we follow probably the most glamorous car, certainly the most expensive and powerful car in the race, the Maserati.
Got a 6-speed gearbox, this 6-speed get-rag gearbox, and Tim Webster also talking to one of the co-drivers of this car, Keith Carley.
Yes, thank you, Craig. Keith's with me. Had a wry smile on his face while you lot were sending up his motor car. He did. How are you, Keith?
Good, thanks, Tim.
You can answer these questions. Is this its racing debut?
Yes, it is, actually. And as Colin said, we've only had the car for about a month, and unfortunately we haven't had a lot of development time. The media day, we learned a lot, and we went back and did a lot of homework, but we really only had about a day or two at Lakeside before we came down here for this weekend.
And there she is. Very pretty motor car, but I suppose, as the boys say, it'd want to be for 220.
Well, sure, but it is a lovely, lovely motor car to drive, and it is very, very strong. The engine is a fantastic engine, and up the hill, down the straight, it's certainly far quicker than the Mazdas and the Porsches.
Well, yeah, not much development time, but still, you've been going for 14 hours out here. That's a pretty good testament to it.
Absolutely, and if it wasn't that little wheel bearing problem, you know, we probably would have been up in the 4th spot, I think.
Yeah, tremendously powerful. In fact, we're inside the car now, and let's have a yarn to Bill, if you can hear us. Bill Gillespie, you there?
Yes, hello, Tim. How are you?
Good, mate. Keith's right next to me. You're going pretty quick. You're doing, what, around the 240 mark?
Yep. I'm trying to get a 39 out of it if I can, just so I can say to Carling he didn't get one.
Yeah, good on you, Bill.
Well, mate, he's sitting right next to me. You're going to try and for a 239 as we're talking, or could you talk and drive? You right?
You kidding?
Bill,
did Carling tell you he's got a sore throat? Yeah, he's crook. The poor dear.
Come on, Billy, you just concentrate on getting your 39, mate.
I've already had one today.
Have you?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you've got a 38 to get behind.
Oh, mate, one screamer, that's all that was.
Bill, you sound very happy too. After 14 hours, the car's obviously still going very well.
No, we're pretty happy. Wait a minute. I don't know if this bloke will see me.
All right. We'll leave you to it while he has a look. Yeah, up past a Corolla, okay?
Yeah, I'm right now. They're pretty good. All the little cars have been really good today. They're fantastic.
Tremendous amount of power you've got, Bill.
What, in my arms or in the car?
In the car. Oh. Well, your arms too, if you like, yeah.
No, the car's going wonderfully. It's like, as Keith said, since that wheel bearing, like, absolutely like clockwork. If we hadn't had that problem, I suppose that's, you know, the age-old motorsport story, though, isn't it? If we hadn't had that problem, we'd have been up in first place or something. But no, for a first outing, I think the car's going extremely well.
Listen, talk our viewers through what you're up to at the moment and what sort of speeds you're doing as you head down here.
Okay, well, I'm just in 4th gear going into 5th, doing 200 kilometres an hour now. I've just pulled into 6th when I hit 6th gear now. It's 220, 230. I might get 240, I don't know. I'll go back to 5th here, touch on the brake, turn in, cross a little bump, on the brakes 4th, 3rd, and then turn in. Try not to get the wheel off the ground. And then over here, 4th gear, underneath the Bridgestone Bridge. Go to about the 150 braking marker, give the brakes a pump, 3rd gear. And then around into the left-hander. A bit of wheel spin. Whoops. There we go. And 4th gear. Chase this little Mercantile Mutual MR2.
Very well done. Careful now. Keith's starting to tap his fingers on the chair, which is a sure sign of nerves.
Yeah. I know.
Come on, Billy, keep it smooth. You've got to try for that 39.
No, I don't know about that.
You're not going to whip out already, are you?
No, I'll give it a go. They'd love to hear that, wouldn't they?
Would you like us to leave you alone so you can go for your 239?
No, not particularly. I'm quite happy, actually.
Quite happy to have a chat? All right. Well, I tell you what, it's a fantastic shot from inside the car, inside the Toyota car camp. As you zip around there, the car really is going beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah.
And you are too, Billy.
Thank you very much. Full of compliments.
Yeah, we're seeing you inside the motor car now, and as our commentators were saying earlier, it's not a typical looking race car, but then it's not supposed to be with all that beautiful wood panelling.
No, I think all race cars should have wood trim, obviously. It's just the coming thing.
Bill, can I ask you, what sort of speed are you getting down the streets in the car?
About, whoops.
Yeah, we just had him at 240, I think.
About 240.
Yeah.
And a lot of interest from Maserati in this car too, as I understand it. You've got Casarini out here from Maserati in Italy, who's an Italian production director with the company, but they'd be very keen on seeing this race for the very first time.
Well, they just can't believe the track. They went around yesterday with Graham Nielsen, and they just in a demonstration, and they were just amazed. They couldn't believe it. They said that they're all crazy, of course, and they said the motorbike guys are just even crazier.
And what's the plan for this car after this race?
Well,
told we'd, provided this all the package comes out right at the end of the day, I think we'll get some extra budget and go and do those supercar races towards the end of the year and do the Sandown 500 because we want to develop this package and come back in 95 for the James Hardie 12 hour.
Bill, what would you do in the way of development? What do you still want to do?
Well, basically, just get the car more balanced. I mean, it's got a ton of grunt, but we've just got to be able to get the car balanced enough so that we can actually get most of it down when we need to. But it's got, I'll tell you what, it's not a bad little, not a bad starting point.
All right, Bill. Listen, thanks very much for that. We appreciate it. You go for your 2:39. I'll get Keith to say goodbye.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Go on, Billy. You go for it, mate.
Thank you, Keith.
All right, we'll leave Bill Gillespie in that lovely $220,000 Maserati Shamal. And let's have a look at the leaderboard as we take a break. And the Mazda's still up there by a lap from the Porsche. The other Porsche's still there with that MR2 and the Volvo doing wonderful work. Next page, another MR2 through the Impreza, Falcon, another RX-7 and that Maserati we've just been seeing. And then the Lancer Integra, another Lancer, and go through all the pages here. And that's our leaderboard as it stands in the James Hardie 12 hour. We're back here soon.
To go in the James Hardie 12 hour, 1.25 hours still to go. And this is our leader, car 7, the BP Mazda Motorsport entry of Greg Hansford and Neil Crompton. They've done everything right, including having an absolutely brilliant pit stop at a time when times in the pits could decide the outcome of the race. We think they've got one more stop to make. The Porsche, I think, will go all the way through, so everything depends on just how quickly they can go to build up time and how quickly the next pit stop might be.
Because the split between first and second last year between Mazda and Porsche was something like 28 seconds between first and second. Then Porsches were excluded because of a wheel infringement, and so we ended up with a Mazda 1-2. But this year, different story. One Mazda out with a blown turbo, Gary Walden's car, and we have car number 6. That's the Yulden Volvo with a fire. And a lot of flames coming out from underneath the car, a lot of smoke. There'll need to be a fire marshal there fairly quickly, and this is not a turbocharged car either, Colin Bond.
He needs to get out of the car very quickly because there's a lot of flame coming out from the back there.
And he doesn't obviously know it yet. He's still sitting in the car trying to talk to the pits.
Yes.
And the flames, I think they might...
Yeah, flames are starting to I think, burn themselves out, but gee, that could have been a really nasty one.
Well, it's either petrol or oil. They're all running down the bottom there. It's coming from around the sump area and up under the front wheel. He needs to get out of that car pretty quickly. Now he's out, and he's the fire's a little more diminished, but he's still not aware, I don't think, of the degree of danger he was in. Still burning under there.
I think it's oil, actually. I'm sure they're blowing a motor because you can see it dripping down. There's water dripping under the car as well. I'm sure that the flames would have been from the hot oil onto the exhaust. It would have actually ignited.
Well, now he'd be worried.
Put itself out again, and the water's still dripping. I'm sure that...
No, there's still flames there, I think.
I think he's decided to go and find the fire extinguisher.
No, it's burning at the back.
Yes, you can see it burning at the back too.
Oh, it is too.
Yeah, no, it really is a bad fire. He needs a marshal there pretty quickly. It's burning under the bonnet. You can see this. Here they come.
No, he's done it himself.
Do it yourself. Yeah, this is a self-serve stop.
Well, they've had a difficult day in car 6 with first losing a wheel earlier this morning in the first hour or so of the event, and now, of course, after climbing back through the field and doing a reasonable job, they're now out of the event, which is a shame. So that's the Kent Yulden. Number 6, Volvo. Second car that's been prepared by
George Shaw for
this weekend's race.
The good news, though, is that the fire marshals have turned up.
The wig was turned up. Car number 4, this is the Peter Fitzgerald Porsche 968 CS, currently running second outright in the James Hardie 12-hour race. It's one lap down on the leading Mazda, car number 7. And this is the car that Peter Fitzgerald drove last year. In fact, both car 4 and this car's teammate, car 14, have had an engine change after 10,000 kilometres of hard racing and testing, and I believe they put the original rings back in the car because the condition of the rings was so good.
I'm sure that actually after the race last year, Jim Richards drove one of these cars in Targa Tassie. Both cars actually did compete in the event, and I guess that gave Jim a lot of experience that he's been able to use today driving the car, because I was quite excited to see the way Jim was flinging the car around and the speeds he was actually achieving with it, and the times was fantastic.
I think that fire's well and truly still blazing on that number 6 Volvo too, by the look of that. Yes. Shot in the background as the Porsche heads up the mountain. In fact, you can see the flames halfway up Mountain Straight at the moment, or the smoke anyhow. But good effort from Peter Fitzgerald to get this team together, and no doubt he won't be too happy about being one lap down, claiming that second place was taken away from him last year on a technicality.
Back at the Volvo, we were the marshals are there, the bonnet is up. You've got to be terribly careful with the car fire opening the bonnet because the flames can be burning away. You open it up and you've got a face full of flames, so it requires an expert there, as these marshals undoubtedly are, to open it up and to get the fire out, to starve it of oxygen. So I think it's under control, but it's a fairly expensive bit of a fire there because a lot of good equipment undoubtedly has melted or been burnt. And I think it's Kent Yule. I'm not sure who the driver is. He's well and truly cloaked up, but he's has the distressed stoop of a driver who's just seen quite a bit of trouble. In third place, well back, but in third place is car 14. Another of the Porsche 968s, Brad Jones, Brett Peters and Jeff Morgan are the drivers of this car.
Porsche's finished first and second in the Sandown race before Bathurst last year, and really served one up to Mazda, who of course responded to the James Hardie 12-hour last year. But you can see that this car is 4 laps behind the second place car of teammate Peter Fitzgerald's. Was some comment earlier, Colin Bond, that perhaps the driving lineup in this car wasn't as strong as what it could have been, and the car could have been pushed and run a lot harder.
Oh, I don't think so. I think the guys have done a really good job, actually. I know that the guys, have done a lot of racing for Porsche as well. Brad Jones is no slouch in any car, but I really feel that Porsches, I'm sure, have done a very calculated race. They're very good. You say go to Sandown. Sandown's a little bit more handling. You haven't got the grunt up the hill that you've got here. The turbochargers really do come into their own with the power up the hills, and that's been the case. Turbochargers are always fragile. You're never quite sure when it's going to actually let go, and I think everyone sort of tries to be a bit conservative in the setup. You give the car a little bit more fuel to keep the turbocharged cooler, but you go to normally aspirated cars, you definitely know that the car should last all day, and that's what the Porsche have been able to do.
Strong German mark. Porsche's been in motorsport for as many years as I'm sure anybody can remember, and a very, very successful motorsport mark. And Peter Fitzgerald has been no stranger to the Porsche Mark II to put this deal together. And this is car 2. It's the MR2 Toyota, currently being driven by Fangio.
Last time we tried talking to One Manual, he had some trouble hearing us. Can you hear us now, One Manual? We coming through clearly? Are you there, One Manual Fangio?
Yes.
I was about to say hablo usted inglesi, but I don't have to.
Everything is going all right. There is a few interruption on the radio, but everything is going very good. The cars feel nice, and we just need to be conservative to finish the race.
Well, how conservative is conservative? I mean, how slowly do you have to go? What are you trying to save on the car?
Well, I think it's important to shift easy and try to use the brakes on the right amount and trying to be smooth around the turns, and I think that will be the keys to finish the race.
Now, you're about 1 minute ahead of Peter Brock in the Volvo. Can you maintain that margin over him?
I know that it's another class, so I think right now it's important to keep a good pace without thinking too much about the overall position.
So it's the class win that you're after, but you have done outstandingly well. You really put the car right up there at the top of the field.
Well, I'm really enjoying the car very much, and I think that is everything about it. So on this racetrack, you know how much I like it too, so I'm really having a very good time.
How much of an inspiration to you was your uncle, the great Juan Manuel Fangio?
Well, you know that I was very lucky to be close to him and understand how important is all the preparation that is coming from the team to be competitive. Sometimes different driver doesn't have that luck to know how important it is to be with the right team and with the right car.
Well, you've got the right team, you've got the right car, and the team and the car certainly have the right driver.
Yeah. Evan Green, if you just pardon me for a second. Juan Manuel Fangio, it's Tim Webster in the studio. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I have a message from your team management, and this has been officially sanctioned. They want you to do 2-minute 47s till the end, all right? Do 47s. Why are you laughing? It's true. I just got told that by my director. Do 47s. That's the message.
Okay.
Did you get that?
Yep. Thank you very much.
And that's an official message now. You're not allowed to ignore it.
Yep, yeah, that's right.
All right, Evan, you can take it back.
I wonder if he actually...
I think we'll let Juan Manuel get on with the job. We'll go to the pits and John Smales.
Indeed, Evan, Peter Brock is in the pits. It's an unscheduled stop. We understand from the team that Brock has lost first, second and third gear. In other words, he's been tooling around in fourth and fifth only. He's been dropping about 4 to 5 seconds a lap on the Juan Manuel Fangio MR2. So his race, in terms of being able to hold fourth position, is run. But at the moment, we've been concerned also by smoke coming out of the car. Now, we've been told, don't worry, it's only wheel spin. You tell me a Volvo that will wheel spin in fourth or fifth gears. So the smoke this time, I think, could be something just a little bit serious. And the look on Rocky's face probably tells us that at the moment. And certainly he's lost 1 minute and 11 seconds so far in the pits. And there isn't frantic activity around the car, which tells me that maybe in one fell swoop, both Volvos might have run their race today.
He's only a lap ahead of the Subaru Impreza, which is in the same class, and it's a class win that Volvo really would like to win.
Yeah, Brock's belts are coming off, Evan. I'd say at this moment that you've seen both Volvos out of the race with just 1 hour remaining.
What a shame after an absolutely outstanding drive. Let's run through now the field in the Class S. That's Sportscars up to 2 litres, where Fangio is leading with the Bates twins, another MR2 with the Baguana cousins, and John Smith in there driving for them. The Integras are coming in third and fourth, the Honda CRX in fifth place, and the Celica and the MR2.
James Hardie 12 Hour is proudly brought to you by BP Visco 5000 Motor Oil, Ultimate Engine Protection, the new Toyota Celica, it's turned savage, Coca-Cola, proud sponsors of the James Hardie, and Mobil, looking after tomorrow today.
Welcome back to Mount Panorama for the James Hardie 12-hour production car race. This racetrack is 6.2 kilometres in length and has been part of Australian motorsport history since 1931, when motorcycles were first raced here. It's only been modified once, Colin Bond, with the addition of Caltex Chase, which added 0.3 kilometres to the track. And the first 6-hour race, what we're looking at now is the 12-hour race. The first 6-hour race was held in 1962, was won by the Gagan brothers, Leo and Pete, in a Daimler SP250. In those days, the chassis flicked so badly it caused the driver's door to spring open for most of the race, but Greg Hansford's not having those kind of problems today.
No, I think the cars have advanced quite a lot. The circuit's been advanced an awful lot too over the years. I mean, you look at the old footage, you see telegraph posts and just wire fences on the side of the road. Now the circuit is up to any standard, I'd say, in the world. There's nice fencing all the way around. It makes it very safe for all the drivers as well as the competitors and the spectators alike.
I saw the Gagans win that race, and I also saw them win a race both wearing suits and not safety suits, the ordinary sort. Dick Johnson in car 17 doing really well, and his great rival for years and years, Peter Brock, is now out, which is a real tragedy for both the race and for Volvo, but it moves Dick up one more place, and this has been a great effort by Dick and his son in the Falcon. He very carefully worked out the right sort of Ford to run in the event, went for the 6-cylinder model, and it certainly proved to be the correct decision. Gone very well in this car, has been as high as 7th, dropped back a little bit, and he's now moving back up through the field, of course, through the demise of Peter Brock. He's running 8th at the moment, but Brock is out, I'd say, so Dick will be back in 7th place.
Yeah, great to see Dick and his son having a successful run. They, of course, qualified very well last year with a Laser TX3 Turbo, and the car was an outright, well, a favourite for class honours and certainly an outright contender as well. But Colin Bond, in the cool morning air, they actually blew a turbo almost on the warm-up lap and didn't even complete one complete lap of the James Hardie 12-hour.
I know, it's always a problem. They probably put a brand new turbo on that particular night. You think you're doing the right thing. You've probably been running around with another turbo all week, had no problems, put a brand newie on, and it fails first time out. These things happen. I don't know why.
Well, they've got it right for this year by the look of it anyhow. And as you've just seen, the 11th hour has ticked over in the James Hardie 12-hour race here at Mount Panorama. So we're into the final hour of this fantastic motor race, which has seen a great seesawing battle between Mazda and Porsche. But at this stage, car number 7, the Mazda of Greg Hansford and Neil Crompton, has got the legs, we believe, on the Peter Fitzgerald Porsche, which is 1 lap and 47 seconds down. Can't do much about that in 1 hour unless we have a flat tyre on the leading car or some altercation with somebody else on the track.
It's always said the race is never over till the checkered flag, and anything can still happen. I guess what's really happening here is that the Mazda is now in cruise mode. They know they've got to have one more stop. I still believe that the Porsche may have to have one more stop, just for a little bit of fuel. It seemed to have a bit more time than the normal refueling time when it went out for the last stint. So if they've both got another stop, even though the Porsche may be a very short one, I still feel the Mazda in the Rudy box seat. All they've got to do now is cruise home. Don't make any mistakes.
Car number 7, the leading Mazda, we believe, may well come in for a pit stop this lap. Now, bearing in mind he's one lap above the Peter Fitzgerald Porsche, it will be a critical pit stop, and it'll be interesting to see whether they do brakes as well as fuel. But we believe car 7 may well be on this lap.
I'll be interested to see if they actually do a driver change, because Greg's been in the car, he's been stroking along. I think he's fairly comfortable in it. He can do it, but I think if they do put Crompton into the last hour.
Okay, let's just go now to the Falcon. It's car 20, one of the leading contenders in Class B, and Peter Vorst is at the wheel. Can you hear us, Peter, as you climb up the mountain?
Certainly can.
And how are things going in the Falcon?
It's a little bit tired. We're short-changing the gears, but everything's fine.
You were going very well for a while. You've had some problems, though. What were they?
Mostly cracked discs. Otherwise, everything's been fine.
Yeah, you were running very strongly early in the race.
Yeah, it's just a few disc problems, though.
Yeah. How's the race physically, Pete? I mean, how tough is it on a driver? Because it looks a very demanding circuit.
It's not too bad, actually. It's quite a pleasure to drive on this circuit. It's absolutely brilliant.
Peter, you're currently running second in your class. You'd have to be happy with that, especially to a guy like Dick Johnson.
Oh, we're very, very happy with that. It's been a very low budget of effort, and we've got to sort of nurse the car along, keep the revs down, easy on the brakes.
I guess it's a little different from driving a HQ around here. Of course, you've been fairly successful in HQ racing.
Yeah, I've won a few, but they're all sprint races, so you sort of got to discipline yourself for these types of races. Easy on the brakes, easy on the revs.
Okay, we must leave you now. We've got the winner in the pits for the stop. This is car 7, car 7 rather, the Greg Hansford car. John, what's happening down there?
What's happening, Evan, is that they are doing a brake change. Neil Crompton has elected to stay out of the motor car. He was originally supposed to take over the drive, but I think because Greg Hansford is so well suited to the motor car, so well dialed in, and Crompton admitted to me just a moment ago he was feeling very nervous that he's left Greg Hansford in the car. They're doing their brake change now. Undoubtedly the Porsche will unlap itself while the Mazda is in the pits. 38 seconds have gone by. We wait for another 10 seconds for the Porsche to come by. Here it comes now. So the Porsche unlaps itself, puts itself back on the same lap. That still leaves some 2 minutes and 30 seconds between the leader sitting here in the pits and the Porsche out on the track. Can it be done? This is quite a lengthy stop, but realise they're doing front brake pad changes. Just over a minute gone by at the moment. Hansford looking so relaxed in the car, but getting a little nervous now, wants to go. Alan Horsley wants him to go. All arms almost up in the air. Go. Hansford's out in 1 minute 14, and that puts him, I would imagine, about 2 minutes and maybe 10 seconds in front of the Porsche.
Well, let's wait and see. Did they change the discs themselves or just the pads, John? Do you know? I think John's gone elsewhere where it's a little safer.
They actually do change the whole disc and pad assembly and a caliper, the whole thing at once. It's done that way so you can disconnect. What you're putting back on is nice and cold. The people can handle it nicely. If you're playing around with a hot disc, people can get burnt, and it's always fairly dangerous. It's the fastest way you can do it, and everybody does it this way.
Right now, we're into the last 55 minutes of the race. It's over now to the main studio and Tim Webster.
Thanks, Evan. Yes, we are. We've gone past the top of the hour. That means it's time for an update of the James Hardie. All right, and that update means I've got a very important fella sitting next to me. Now, this is the most successful partnership in this race, without a doubt. Mark Brame and, of course, the fella sitting next to me, Henry Draper, in the Suzuki Swift. G'day.
How are you?
Nearly 4 in a row, not far to go now.
Yeah, but don't say that just yet.
You don't want me to jinx you.
No.
I mean, the car just goes superbly here, doesn't it? Really does.
It does. I mean, it just goes around like a clock. Round and round. There he goes past now.
Yeah, there he is.
There he is.
Sounds like an annoyed bee.
It is. It's quite angry all day.
You were telling me that some of these big cars, and we're looking at the car on the screen now, the big cars have it relatively easy and relatively comfortably, but this thing feels just every bump.
Well, they do. When I was out there in the first stint this morning, there was a lot of cars going past and going past very fast, and they wanted to pass you anywhere and everywhere they could. But the last stint when I just got out, there's not anywhere near so many out there, and they are quite happy to hang back and let you run away down the hill, and they'll catch you later on the straight and just use the power they've got, but they're not going anywhere near as fast. We're still doing the same lap times as we were when we started the race.
Well, I tell you what, Henry, you see an awful lot of Suzuki Swifts on the road, and I think one of the reasons is they see them go so well here every year.
Well, there's been, up until this year, there's been 15 Suzuki start this race, and there's been 15 finish. Our car has won the race every year so far. There's 2 out there now. We're leading by, from your screen there, we're leading by 2 laps in the class, and there's a Laser next, and then there's another Suzuki, and they both look like, all things being well, fingers crossed, they'll get to the finish.
And with the smallest engine in the race, 1298 cc.
That's all, yes.
Yeah. Tiny little car, but it just rips around here, lap after lap after lap. And this is the most successful motor car in the race, most successful maker in the race, there's no doubt about that.
I think so. And,
by a long way. Yeah.
And I could say that car there, we had a expensive non-Suzuki computer in the thing until yesterday, and we took it out and put the standard one back in, and that's what it's running now.
All right, we'll let you go back down there. We've just lost a car up there on the top of the mountain. We'll let you go back down to the bottom because I know you're a bit nervous for 4 in a row. Thanks for coming up to see us.
Thanks, Jim.
Henry Draper in the Suzuki Swift, and we'll go back to the commentators and see what that is on the top of the mountain.
I think it's the class leading, the B class leading Mazda 626 of Danny Bogart. I think it was 39 that went sideways and is stopped on the mountain. We're not quite sure what the problem is, but it was certainly stationary.
Yes, the car of Danny Bogart, Cameron McConville, who has been leading the class for, I guess, the last 3 or 4 hours. Looks like Colony's gone in nose first.
Yeah. It's hit something. I don't know what it's hit. There doesn't appear to be any other cars around, so he must have just come over the top, had a bit of a lose. Yeah. I don't know how the car's got where it is. That's
no time, Archer. Let's have a look and see just what actually happened now. Something went wrong on the top. What was it? Did he lose it there? We'll see.
That's not him.
No, just waiting to see when he turns up. But I'd say he'd be in trouble when he appears.
I see. He's got pushed out by another car. Yeah. Bang into the wall. Yeah.
Oh, he will be so angry.
Oh, well, that's a Porsche, isn't it, too?
Yes,
that's
one
the
of the
second
Porsches.
car, no.
Yes, car 4, the one coming second. So it was a critical moment for him as well, but it put the class leader in Class B out of the race. And they will be furious. Less than an hour to go, just a matter of 52 seconds to go. Let's see how he was placed outright in the field. Let's run through the full field now with just 52 minutes to go in the James Hardie 12-hour race. It's still the Mazda RX-7 of Hansford and Crofton in the lead, with Hansford in the saddle. Fitzgerald and the Porsche are surviving that crash with the Mazda. The Toyota's doing well, up in 4th and 5th place. Dick Johnson up into 7th. The Maserati climbed up another place as well. Rock still shown as 9th, despite the problems they've had. And let's just see where that 626 was. The class, there we are, back in 13th place, but he's stuck on the mountain. He might get it going, but I rather doubt it. I think his race has run so close to the end of the event.
It's always disappointing, Evan, when these things happen. I could see that, you know, the Porsche was obviously pushing on, but there wasn't enough room, and he's tried to sneak down the inside of him, coming over the skyline. Obviously, they didn't see each other, and next minute there was a touch, and away they go.
But a brake problem, do you think?
I don't think it's a brake problem. I really think that it was just the fact that the Porsche was just trying to get through on the car before he actually got down to the dipper. He didn't want to lose time being stuck behind the car, but really he didn't have the road to do it.
Yeah, we were lucky not to lose our second car, car number 4. 14 we're following is coming in 3rd place, the second of the Porsches, and here's our leader, so the 3rd and 2nd car are nose to tail. Let's look again at that incident involving Danny Bogart in the Mazda 626. Watch him as he comes over skyline with the Porsche right behind. Now it's coming up. Oops, we're doing another one. Sorry. We're having a busy time. We're having a busy time indeed.
That's the skiing Madden Logan car from Queensland. So he's had a nasty moment there, but obviously the yellow flags are out.
Pace car's out.
And
oh yes, the Mazda's in too difficult a position. Well, that makes it now almost impossible, I would say, for the Porsche to catch up to the leading RX-7. It depends how long the pace car is out.
I understand that Peter Fitzgerald has unlapped himself, so he's actually on the same lap.
Okay, let's just take a pause here, and we'll return to the action at the James Hardie 12 hours in just a few minutes.
Action aplenty here at Mount Panorama for the James Hardie 12-hour production car race, and we have the field under the control of the pace car. And Colin Bond, this presents a very interesting scenario for us.
It does, actually. I just noticed before the pace car went out, the two Porsches were just in front of the winning car, which is the leading car, sorry, the Mazda. The Mazda had a lap, almost a lap. They were just a fraction behind. What's actually happened now is the pace car goes out, waves all the cars past till it gets the leading car in the race, which is now the Mazda car directly behind the pace car. What this now means is that car 4, which is now coming second, was almost a lap down, can actually run around the circuit at quite a reasonable speed, get on the end of the tail, so when this actually goes back racing, theoretically they may only be about 20 seconds between first and second, and we've only got maybe about 3/4 of an hour left for the race. It's certainly going to put a different complexity on the race.
And in actual fact, car 4 looks like it has been waved past the pace car.
It has. It's already been waved past. That's happened. They're coming around now to catch up to the tail, which will happen. The tail's going up Mountain Straight, so they will get on the end of the queue. I guess Alan Horsley will be dreading this because they've been trying to get a buffer all day. As soon as they get the buffer, these things have happened.
And down in the pits, let's hear from John Smales about this situation.
And I've got with me, Will, Jim Richards, the man who stands to gain most from this situation. Richo, in your wildest dreams, did you think it possible?
Well, listen, it's a long way from over yet, but of course, you know, we've been helped out by the yellows, which happens all the time, so we're quite happy. If we can get round behind the Mazdas again, well, of course, we've got another chance.
On the track, however, Fitz has been losing time to the Mazda. What can he do to make it up?
Well, he can't do anything than go as fast as he's going, but of course, if he's closer to the Mazda, then the Mazda has to go harder than it is now.
So he might force the Mazda into error, that's what you're saying?
Well, yes, the Mazda will have to go faster because if anything happens to slow his progress, like a puncture or whatever, well, then Fitz will pass him.
What about yourself? Do you need one more pit stop?
No, we don't.
And I bet Jim Richards would love to be out there. I don't know that he'd ever say that because he's not that sort of person. But I bet he'd love the chase. I bet he'd love the chance.
The difficulty for the Porsches, though, Colin, I guess, is the Mazda's going to have a clear track in front of it, but the Porsches are still going to have to come through all the traffic behind the leading Mazda.
Exactly. What's actually going to happen, there possibly will be 20 seconds, and I only just estimating that at the end of when they go back racing again. The Mazda has got a clear track ahead of it. There'll be no traffic whatsoever for quite some time. So he'll have a clear run. The other cars can't really pass a car till they get to the start-finish line, and then they're going to have to pass all the slower cars. They will get held up in traffic, so I dare say that the Mazda's sitting in a very nice situation still. But I'm sure they're glad now they put the brakes in it, because they could have possibly not put the brakes in and then just treat it along to the end of the race. Now what's going to happen, if they have to go hard, they've got new brakes in the car, and I still think they're looking pretty good. It's just going to make a nicer finish for the whole race.
While we're watching the two Porsches go around nose to tail like that, Colin, takes us back to 1977 and that famous 1-2 of Alan Moffat and yours. And now all these years have passed, Colin Bond. What we saw on the last lap was the fact that you actually passed Alan Moffat to prove the point that you could do it, fell back in line, finished second to Moffat under team orders. Down the road, would you have done that again?
I wish you hadn't have asked me.
Come on, answer the question.
Oh, I thought it was the right thing to do at the time, but maybe if I had the other chance, I won't say any, I won't comment, but the result may have been good.
It must have been a tough decision.
It was a tough decision. I thought it was the right decision at the time. That's all I could like to say. But no, I think that this race has been quite exciting. We thought it was going to be a sort of a knockout competition between the Mazdas and Porsches right down to the wire. We're certainly getting that. I think that, you know, it's a shame the other Mazda's not there, because it would have made a hell of an exciting race towards the end, even between the two Mazdas. But I must admit, the race itself has been terrific today. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I've thoroughly enjoyed sitting here talking with it, and it's been a great race.
Surely you'd rather be out there, though.
Well, at the pointy end of the field, it's quite nice.
Let's
and
talk
I must
about
admit,
Colin Bond's retirement. I mean, we've heard this year that you've decided to hang up your helmet for some time. Anyhow, you've raced 2-litre Toyotas for the past few years for the Caltex team. But what are Bondi's race plans?
Well, basically, when we didn't think that this year was ever going to happen as far as 2-litre racing, we decided we really couldn't go to Caltex with a proposal for this year. And we are getting on. We thought, well, that's time to give it away. There is a 2-litre series still happening now, but I must admit, I think probably a right decision at the time. What's going to happen now, of course, is that we have been offered a couple of drives. Whether we take them or not, I'll have to just look down the track on that one. But we may not be completely finished motor racing, put it that way.
So does Robin have any say in the matter?
She wouldn't care. I guess, getting back to this race, we have run it a couple of times. We ran the MR2. The MR2 was a great little motor car. It was the first year the race was on. We finished 6th outright, won the class. And it was a car that you could drive flat out all day, like they're doing today, and I think that's a credit to the car, of course.
All right, let's hear, just while all this is going on, there's another guy who thinks he can profit from it too. Let's hear from Amanda Pledge, talking to Peter Brock about his plans.
Well, Peter, things were looking great for Volvo.
Yeah, they were. We were wrapped on them for a long time. We were right behind the 2 Mazdas and the 2 Porsches. Then, of course, 1 Mazda dropped out, and gee, we were 4th. I thought, this is pretty good. But it just developed a clutch problem about, I guess, 20 minutes ago, and I just had to start nursing it. Now, it's got a little worse, and I think if I kept on driving it right now, it would not finish, but I believe it's got a lap or 2 in it, so I'll get back in a minute and get that checkered flag.
All right, so Peter Brock obviously wanting to go again. Anybody who's soldiered on that hard and been so close to such a convincing result as he was sitting there in 4th place, pretty tempted to go out and see if they can just do enough extra to become one of the finishers, albeit that they fall a long way back down through the field, but it's a lot of difference between finishing and not, and they will go racing this time when they get round to the end of this lap.
Peter Brock, of course, being forced out means that there has been a leader change in the turbo 4-wheel drive class, and of course the Subaru Impreza, the little WRX car of John Burke's, has now moved into 1st outright in that class, and it's currently running 3rd on the racetrack, I think, behind the leading Mazda.
Good effort by that Subaru, but I always thought it should have gone well. Tremendous little cars, and because you have the advantage of both performance, but then very controlled performance through the 4-wheel drive. So just where you want to use it, oftentimes you get wheel spin as they go racing again. And this is the critical time, the restart that should take them to the checkered flag in the 4th James Hardie 12 hour, but also the chase for victory, for glory, for honours. The victory that Porsche couldn't get last year against the Mazdas, and which now temptingly they can see in front of them this time. Car number 4 coming round there against car number 7. The task is still very large.
It is. Now the Porsches can start overtaking. Once they've crossed the start-finish line, the overtaking takes none. But I must admit, there was just over the length of pit straight behind the Mazda this time round. I'm sure when they come around for the second time, the Mazda will have extended its lead quite considerably.
17.25 seconds it is, the gap between 1st and 2nd place, and that's after 11 hours and 22 minutes of racing. So a quite remarkable effort here.
3rd place, 4 laps down. That's the Brad Jones Porsche, the 2nd of the Porsches, but Peter Fitzgerald's going to have a real job in front of him, Colin Bond, threading his way through this traffic with the late afternoon sun. I guess a lot of drivers will be feeling a little bit tired, a little bit weary by now, perhaps not watching the mirrors as much as they should.
Well, that's right. And the thing is, too, it's very hard to see. These cars are catching up some very slow motor cars. We've seen Peter Fitzgerald actually bang one earlier in the race, where they just catch them so quickly they don't even know they're around. They should know they are there now, though, only because they've been in a single file situation. The slow cars will be looking for fast cars coming through, and that's what's really happening. They're getting a pretty good break through the traffic, but now they're going to be held up, and this will happen all the way across the top of the mountain and off the mountain. In the meantime, the Mazda are just disappearing into the distance, and I'm sure Alan Halsey's face will start grinning.
You think we might actually see him smile?
The other aspect of this is not just that, things could go awry for Mazda. They could get squeezed into going too hard, but they do have the much more comfortable ride. But the other thing is that a Porsche could come unstuck.
That's very right, Willie. I'm just seeing down here now, they're taking a few slight risks. I mean, they're not being absolutely silly, but yes, diving down the inside of cars and outside of cars to come and gain a bit of ground on this particular car we're seeing in shot now.
Well, you can just see that, the way it moved almost the full body width off the straight to line up to go on the through the right-hander of Caltech's chase. That Greg Hansford's been told by Alan Horsley, you go, boy, and spare it nothing. You've got to fly. It was 17.25 seconds.
The gap now is going to be quite substantial, actually. I'm just looking at the gap. Here comes the Porsche down the straight. We've got the winning car, leading car, just going past the commentary box now over the start-finish line. So he's extended his lead considerably.
In actual fact, car 14 has just passed Fitzgerald in car 4. So what would be the scenario there?
He might think it may be safer following one car through and trying to...
I reckon send 14 through to do the busy work. I was thinking that up at the top of the mountain, do the dirty work. The one advantage, of course, is that you might say, well, I'm better through traffic than he is, and he's going to hold me up. But other than that, I would have thought it might be better. But look at the traffic they're faced with. And the gap 31 seconds.
I
So
think
nearly doubled.
Yeah. The only other thing I could honestly say about pushing 14 through, if he can start pushing harder, and then the Mazda sees a Porsche coming, presuming it's number 4, of course, and would like to go faster, and that could cause a problem. But I don't think they're in that situation. They are definitely held up in the traffic and losing time all the time now.
Quite a lot of cars going quite quickly. Look at them having trouble getting past Melrose and Ian Love's car, and the Vogue Living MR2 in close to them too, and not losing an enormous amount there. Quite frankly, they don't seem to have an enormous amount of punch at this stage, and I suppose, Colin, that's inevitable over a car that's been worked so hard over more than 11 hours.
True, but what you'll find too now, they're being balked they're not taking their normal race line through the corners, they don't get a fast entry, they don't get a fast exit, and you need that to keep these cars flowing around here as well.
All right, well, let's have a look at the situation. Here's the leaderboard for the outright situation in the James Hardie 12 hour as we come down to the last 35 minutes of racing in this 4th fascinating race for production cars at Bathurst. So, Greg Hansford doing the job here for Mazda and for BP Visco, and let's say it, that it would be an incredible injustice for Mazda if they were to be beaten by this means, because on 3 occasions, on every occasion there's been a pace car here, they've seen their almost entire lead throttled away. Now, they've gone from 17 to 31 to 42.5 since the restart. So they appear to have things well in hand. Let's hope they have, because as I say, I think everybody likes justice and fair dealing, and they've driven it, they've put on the pace, and while Porsche obviously have to do all they can to chase, as I say, look at that beautiful slide there, Colin. Good driving.
Must be back in the car. No, I think that the Porsches obviously handle very well, and they're really having a great time with the cars. This stage of the game too, you feel terrific in the motor cars. You know there's only half an hour to go, but it's nice just to have a bit of a thriller like that.
And lap 250's just rolled up, and you can see on the time clock there, 30 minutes to go in the James Hardie 12-hour production car race, and it's down to, after 11 and a half hours, Colin Bond, it's down to 30-odd seconds, very close racing.
And in car 44, Ian Luff has a flat tyre.
Yeah, coming into the pits now, guys.
Listen to the noise.
It's completely blown out.
Is it left or right, Ian? Does it matter?
Right.
Front right. Where did it blow? Concentrating on getting back to the pits in one piece, I think.
He is. He's in 24th place at this stage. And Skeen in car number 15, Danny Bogut in car number 39, Callahan in 55, Griffin in 16. The cars immediately behind as he comes in for just the replenishment of that tyre.
86% of the field running on Dunlop tyres. They seem to be the class tyre. Of course, we've got the Falcon Maserati that's also been performing pretty well on the Falcon tyres, but Dunlop really, Colin Bond, and of course tyres play such a critical role in production car racing, have really got this race sewn up.
Well, they do. I mean, Dunlop, I think, had most of the cars. Bridgestone had Brock, of course, and a couple of others, not sure. And then Falcon, another tyre. They're all very similar in construction and performance. I doubt if one was really an advantage over the other. The manufacturers will tell you, of course, that theirs is better than the others, but really the performance factor of the tyres are very close. That's what makes the racing close. The cars are much the same as far as car to car, from Mazda to Mazda and so on. But I think that today, I mean, it's a great package. They've come here 3 occasions, they've won 3 times. You can't do any better than that, I guess, you know, but come back again next year.
And they've done it each time on Dunlop. Incidentally, I had a little hint from some people in Mazda that perhaps we wouldn't come back a fourth time. But it wouldn't help the race. It wouldn't help their blood pressure either. But, you know, in a sense, you bail out when you're on a winner. A triple is terrific. To come back a fourth time to win, so what? Not to win, you destroyed virtually your triple treat.
These two cars are actually running in the Targa Tasmania in a couple of weeks' time, Alan Horsley told me. So I believe that Gary Walden's driving and Greg Hansford, so that'll be fairly spectacular.
If I told you how Greg Hansford has been pace noting some of the Targa sections, I wouldn't dare tell you, but I can tell you he'll be travelling very fast. Incidentally, we were forecasting earlier, I was forecasting earlier, record race distance. We won't see it. We'll see about 261 laps. Last in 92 was 254, 93 was 263. So we will actually, after those 3 pace car periods, see less distance this year than last. That's the split now. It's gone out a further few seconds to the advantage of the Mazda RX-7, which with just under half an hour remaining does have the race pretty much under its control. But like last year, nothing was really clear until somewhere in the final half of the race. We'll come back and talk about race distance and how many cars surviving in the last little segment of this fourth James Hardie 12-hour at Bathurst.
For the past decade, BP has been working on a new concept in motor oil based on a unique hydrocracking synthesis process which protects the engine at its most vulnerable time, startup, and yet wouldn't break down at even the most extreme racetrack temperatures. Well, as of today, it's no longer just a theory. Introducing Visco 5000, BP's new formula for ultimate engine protection. Of course...
And so, the car number 4, travelling around now but at a deficit of 45 seconds to the race leader, the Mazda RX-7, number 7, of Greg Hansford and Alan Grice. How do you see the situation? Fitzgerald, almost an impossible task?
Yes, I noticed the way he fell back very quickly as soon as the restart came. And looking at his lap times, he's obviously got a problem, and I believe it's from some deranged front suspension. It's ironic that he was involved in the incident that caused the pace car, that caused him to get almost a lap back. But unfortunate, I guess, from a race point of view, a close finish point of view, that incident has apparently deranged the front suspension. He's not being able to make the time. And if you look at the lap times too from the 7 car, the lead car, it's sort of settled back into 7s, although it's just pulled 46, I'm sorry, it's 36 and 37s again. So it's now in cruise mode, I believe, because I believe that car 4 is limping.
Well, indeed, car 4's got a few scars on the front of it. Most of the cars ended up immaculately out of this race last year. But scars on both left, front and right. And Peter Fitzgerald certainly must know in his heart of hearts that once again he didn't quite make it. But one that's made it every year so far in the sports car class, as well as backing up with outstanding overall results, has been Toyota with its MR2. It's currently 4th. Its previous best has been 6th. That is quite stunning. $45,000 car, non-turbo, 2-litre, 4-cylinder engine. It really is the stunning performance of the race. And Juan Fangio, you must be thrilled not just to be leading your class, but to be lying so high up in the field overall.
Yeah, definitely. I'm very impressed with the car. I have that experience before 1 year ago, and now we are repeating the same thing. Definitely this car is absolutely fantastic.
The little map on the dashboard. Do you actually use it?
Well, I don't want to use that map, because that is only if you have problem in the course. If you have any kind of trouble, I can say to the team exactly what I am. So we don't want to use it.
I'm pleased to hear that.
Juan Mudlow, can you hear me? We're calling from the studio now.
Yes, I do.
I've got Neil Bates with me. I don't know whether he's got any advice for you in the closing stages, Neil. Talk to him.
No, I haven't got any advice for you, Juan. You just keep it going there, keep it circulating, and
will win the class and finish 4th outright, which will be a great result for the car.
Okay, Neil, keep pushing from there.
He's looking pretty intently at the television screen, Juan, but we're looking at you inside the car, and the little MR2 is just ripping around as usual.
Yeah, everything is really smooth, everything is good. So a few more minutes to go, so we need to be smooth, try to be out of, far away from mistakes.
Yep, I'm just checking all your lines there to make sure they're all right. Everything's looking fine.
Could I just ask, Juan, that corner that you just went through, the uphill right-hander there, how close were you to crashing in the early part of the race when you went off the track there?
Well, I don't remember going off the track. I remember being close to the wall. But, you know, that is something that really amazed me. It's how easy it is to control this car. It's, I hope I don't spin now after telling this.
All right. Juan Fangio, thank you. A stunning performance. We'll be back with the James Hardie 12-hour very shortly. This is the situation in the race. 52 seconds between first and second after some 11 hours and 40 minutes of racing. And as you can see, the Toyota MR2 in fourth. John Burke, Wayne Park and Matthew Martin, son of an Australian driving champion, have been the crew in car 11 that's leading the turbo class, one of 8 classes proposed for the race, 7 which received entries, and Alan Grice, a pretty impressive performance, 7th outright.
Yes, it certainly is. But I happen to know that that car is running a completely standard engine management. So the car that you buy off the showroom floor runs exactly the same amount of power as running in that race car. And I think that that's pretty impressive, because every other turbocharged car in the race I know has the better chip, the better engine management, which is free now, of course, in this category of racing. So all the more an impressive performance, I think.
Yeah, well, it comes standard with 155 kilowatts. You can get about 188 as you buy it off the floor to use in rallies.
Yes, exactly.
And the factory serves it out with a 200 horsepower. You can actually get well over 300
kilowatts.
horsepower,
yes.
200 kilowatts
yes.
in competition form for highly modified events. So here's the car that's leading the V class. That's the V8s or high performance 6s, and it's a 6 that's come through, and it's Nick Johnson with son Stephen. Bring a glow to his cheek, I'm sure, that leads that particular class. They've been supported also by Danny Osmond. That's been a great performance. I like to see the car doing well. It's lying 6th ahead of that turbocharged car. So, and one of, or the only Australian car in about the top 12 or 13. Then Class A. Well, Mark Brave and Henry Draper appear to have done it again. They had to come from a long way behind this time. A reconfigured class gave them an awfully big task, but somehow they and the little Suzuki GTI have come through, and one can only say it's incredible credit to them. They have an unblemished record, not only for Brave and Draper, 4 wins in 4 runs in the class, outstanding outright results as well, but for Suzuki it looks like being 17 finishes out of 17 starters in the 4-year history of the race.
Tremendous effort for these two. Cars now heading up Mountain Straight, Colin, but for a little car with a 1300cc engine, we've talked about it before, but tremendous performance, particularly up against the 2.5-litre cars.
Exactly. I think it's just reliability. Obviously, the car's a good motor car. It's a sound motor car, engineering-wise, of course. They've been driven absolutely magnificently. I'm really impressed, actually, with the young boy driving the car now. You know, he's fairly young, like a lot of the other drivers in these cars, but he's been doing a great job, and to come here 4 years and win 4 years in a row in a class, I think that's a fantastic effort, and I defy anybody else to do it.
To qualify 43rd, a fraction off the time that he did last year. He couldn't get down into the 55s or 4s. He did 54s last year, qualified at 56s, and yet he has come up to 12th place outright. It really is a stunning performance.
It is.
Fantastic.
And he's only 24 years of age, as you mentioned, Colin, young guy, so if he's been here for the last 4 years, he started at Bathurst quite young.
There was half a hint as actually Suzuki and Atico, the Suzuki importer distributor, tie in together. And Neville Crichton is Atico, and Neville was the owner of the BMW. There was half a sort of thought that he might have been in the BMW team at one stage, but when you get heavies like Alan Jones and John Howe, they sort of say, stick with your Suzuki, son.
I think he made the right right choice, Will.
He did too, yeah.
The
Finished
BMW,
higher than the BMW.
unfortunately, went out earlier today with a blown engine, which was a sad blow to Alan Jones and Neville Crichton. Qualified well and were looking fairly strong until the engine, in Jonesy's words, lunched itself.
It was lunchtime, as he said.
But I guess you've had that happen to you plenty of times, Colin Bond, around the mountain.
Oh, look, as we said before, the race is never over till the end, and they've still got, what, quarter of an hour to go, nearly, and anything can still happen. You hope it doesn't at this stage. You've driven all day, they've been up early, we're all here early, so it's not just a 12-hour race, it's probably more like a 14-hour race for everybody.
I mentioned 7 classes running here today, but there were actually 8 scheduled in the sub-regs and entry form. Colin, how would you have fancied running a car in the luxury class, a Lexus or one of the Mercedes-Benz range, or a Holden Calais or Statesman or a Honda Legend or something?
Actually, those cars, Will, are fantastic to take shopping. Sometimes don't really go well on a racetrack.
Do you think it's, while it seems a good idea, we probably won't see entries for a class like that?
Oh, I think they're fairly expensive, and they're not really... I mean, some of those cars are very good race cars, no two ways about it. You could be made a good race car, but I think the cars we see now are the ideal cars for racing here.
Those are the leaders in 3 of the 7 classes we have. We'll have a look at the others when we return for the last few minutes of this fascinating James Hardie 12-hour at Mount Panorama.